5 worst players in NBA history, there is no one player who wants to be remembered as the worst. However, the world still has considered some of the NBA players who lacked focus and couldn't make it so well, while trying so hard all the time. In this video, we look at the 5 worst players in the NBA. Stay tuned. Kwame Brown. What do we say about Kwame Brown? Brown ended up being one of the most hyped up players coming into the NBA draft. His career ended short, due to him losing focus, and just shutting down during games. Well, in high school, Kwame Brown was largely considered to be the best high school player in his class. Brown had to compete against a young Tyson Chandler and Eddie Curry while at Glenn Academy. After leaving, in his senior year, he left the school with the all-time record for shots blocked and rebounds. During his senior year, he averaged 20 points, 13 rebounds and 6 blocks per game, after playing in the 2001 McDonald's All-American Game and graduating from high school. Kwame opted not to pursue any college offers. He instead declared for the 200.1 NBA draft. After working out with the Wizards before draft night, it was said that Kwame had told the Wizards coach Doug Collins, "If you draft me, you'll never regret it." The Wizards at the time were under the authority of Michael Jordan, who then decided to draft the young Kwame to the Wizards as their first overall pick in the 2001 draft. Kwame was drastically overhyped in his first season with the Wizards, where he'd only averaged 4 points per game during his rookie season. Despite this, the Wizards refused to believe their first pick was a bust, and they trained Kwame hard to prepare for his sophomore season. While he did improve a bit throughout the next 2 seasons with the Wizards, it is clear he fell short of all expectations that Jordan and the Wizards had for him. During the 2005-2006 season, Kwame was traded to the Lakers in search of more play time, and the Lakers would give it to him. In the 2006-2007 season, Bill Jackson decided to place him as the share-carrying starting center. Kwame blew the opportunity epically, but he nearly doubled the playing time he had ever had in his career. Kwame's averages were disappointing, to say the least. At this point, the Lakers were beginning to notice that Kwame was seemingly losing focus and at times completely choked on many open shots. Perhaps his worst game he had ever experienced was with 7 turnovers, which was more than his rebounds, and he'd even missed a wide-open dunk. Following the game, Lakers fans booed Kwame off the court. After playing for the Lakers, Kwame fell into a spiral of trades to 6 different teams, where he consistently played worse every year. But Kwame initially retired from the league with the 76ers with the final averages at 1 point per game and 3 rebounds. Many speculate that while in the Wizards, Jordan was known to be very hard on Kwame, and this likely affected his confidence and performance for the rest of his career, but we think he was just bad. LaRue Martin. LaRue Martin is considered arguably the biggest bust in NBA history. LaRue Martin was selected first overall by the Portland Trail Blazers over both Hall of Famers Julius Erving and Bob McAdoo. At 6'11", the Blazers figured he'd make a great addition as a center, since the team was undergoing rebuilding phase. Back during his college days at Loyola University, LaRue averaged double-double of 18 points and in the press of 16 rebounds per game throughout his senior season. He still leads the school's basketball team with total rebounds today. LaRue shocked the league in his rookie season with an extremely disappointing performance, averaging only 4 points per game and 4 rebounds per game. As a first overall pick, both the Blazers and NBA fans had pretty high expectations, yet he failed to have even decent year. Recognizing LaRue had some maturing to do, his minutes were cut drastically. During a game, LaRue had invited family and friends over to watch him play. However, the coach never let him touch the court. LaRue reflected about this moment, stating, "It's a tough pill to swallow. I was embarrassed. I had tears in my eyes every time I think about it. Haunts me." LaRue blamed his inability in large part due to his coach Jack McCooksey, who LaRue resented because he wanted Bob McAdoo instead of him. LaRue said, "Jack wasn't a believer in my ability. He came from Wake Forest in North Carolina. He wanted Bob McAdoo. Hey, Bob was a hell of a player. I know that maybe I wasn't the right guy for Jack, so be it, but I never gave him any grief when I was playing for him. I'm not into that. I just kept my mouth shut and did what I was told. Guess it wasn't good enough." Even with Jack gone in the 1974-75 season, LaRue experienced only a slightly better season. He finished his NBA career of that following year only 4 seasons played as a professional basketball player. Using his bachelor's degree in sociology, he landed the job as a UPS executive. Anthony Bennett. Anthony Bennett ended up being one of, if not the biggest drop bust in NBA history. His injuries and maturity levels stopped him from reaching all-star status. Standing at 6'8" and nearly 250 pounds, Anthony Bennett was a dominating force throughout his early years in basketball. After dominating the high school competition, At Findlay Prep, Bennett was picked up at the University of Nevada in Las Vegas. His playing time was cut short since he dealt with an array of injuries. In spite of this limited time, Bennett was averaging 16 points per game along with 8 rebounds a game. What was impressive about him was his shooting average, which costed around 53% later on in his freshman year. He was hit with another injury, this one to his shoulder, and his minutes were cut even further. He only came off the bench on occasion. Despite his limited playing time and experience, he decided to declare for the NBA draft after only 1 year in college. What was a surprise to the league was that he was selected first overall by a rebuilding Cavaliers team in 2013. Bennett himself was surprised, and on draft night he said, "I'm just surprised, everyone else had no idea. They said my name, that's when I knew he was an immediate bust." However, as it took him 33 games to score double figures in points. To put that into perspective, almost 2/3 of first picks score that in their first game. This was the first time in NBA history a first pick ended up taking nearly 3 times the amount of time of any other first pick to score double digits. The score in that game wasn't anything special either. He scored 15 points and grabbed 8 boards before the Cavaliers took a loss to the Pelicans. Not surprisingly, the Cavaliers traded Bennett over to the Timberwolves just a year later. His performance changed a little, if at all. During his second year in the NBA, he was averaging 5 points per game and 3 rebounds per game. The Timberwolves bought out the remainder of his contract and waved him to the rafters. The Raptors looked at Bennett as an opportunity to grow him back into a player. Some believed he was destined to be great, so the team offered him a 1-year contract or give him another shot in the league. After not getting much playing time, Bennett requested to play for the D-League team, being the first pick in the history of the game to do so. He'd be picked up one last time by the Brooklyn Nets before leaving the league to play overseas. After a 4-season career, Bennett had averaged 4 points pre-game along with 3 rebounds per game, placing him amongst the league's biggest first-pick draft busts of all time. Javaris Critton. On going from being a true first-round pick, finding himself in a huge amount of trouble with authorities. Javaris's career in the NBA was cut very short. Javaris was selected in the first round as the Lakers' 19th pick in the 2007 NBA draft. After coming out of just a single year with Georgia Tech and a dominating high school career, Javaris managed to only play 1 year in the league, where he averaged 5 points per game, 2 rebounds per game, and 2 assists per game. During his short time, he also jumped around to 4 different teams, racking up a lot of legal trouble. His biggest controversy in the league took place on the Wizards, where in the locker room he was caught brandishing his pistol and threatening fellow teammate Gilbert Arenas, but also brought some firepower to the locker room. The beef initiated over gambling that had taken place between the Wizards' teammates while traveling by plane. The teammates joked that they would shoot each other with their guns, and by the time they met in the locker room 2 days later, Arenas asked Javaris which of his 4 guns he'd like to get shot by. Responded by showing his own pistol, which was loaded. When the league caught wind of what happened, both players were suspended for the rest of the season. In the aftermath of the incident, Arenas' career began to take a dip, while Javaris's career was practically over. Javaris was released following the incident. He ended up being picked up by the Bobcats, only to be released 3 weeks later after signing his contract. Sun Yu ended up becoming the first Chinese-born player to win a championship ring. He did it well, not even suiting up for the team well. He could barely secure a spot on any team that he played for. Sunny started his professional career out in China when he signed with the Chinese Basketball Association back in 2002. When he was just 17 years old, after playing a few years in China, he declared for the 2006 NBA draft but withdrew. He declared once again a year later, where he was eventually picked up in the second round as the Lakers' 40th pick in the 2007 draft. He wouldn't take up his contract until a year later, starting his official NBA career during the 2008-2009 season. He'd eventually make his NBA debut against the Milwaukee Bucks, and with 5 minutes of play he scored 4 points. He'd go on to play 9 more regular season games where he averaged less than 3 minutes a game, and less than a point per game. After that, he was sent to the Lakers' D-League affiliate team, where his career was cut short there as well when he suffered an injury. That injury caused him to miss out on the remainder of the D-League season. When the Lakers made it to the playoffs, the team took Sun with them, but he was never activated. However, the team won a championship that year against the Celtics. You're still given a championship ring if you don't play. Sun became the first Chinese-born player to win one in the US. While the Lakers were celebrating during the offseason that summer, Sun was waived by the Lakers. He was picked up by the Knicks only to be waved off before the season started. At 6'9", he was called China's Magic Johnson. That by the time his one-season career With the NBA had ended, Son was called the worst ever NBA champion. He ended his career in the NBA with .6 points per game and 1 personal foul per game foreign.